Okay, we will correct June 2016, paper 6, variant 1. June 2016, paper 6, variant 1. Okay. Question number 1. The diagram shows the apparatus used to separate a mixture of water, boiling point 100 degree, and ethanol, boiling point 78 degrees Celsius. He's asking to complete the boxes to name the apparatus. Okay. Number 1, fractionating column. This one is fractionating column. We don't say the glass beads as long as he's not pointing to the glass beads. If you zoom in, لا, he's pointing to the fractionating column itself. If he pointed here, كنا هنقول glass beads. Okay. بعد الفراكشنيتنج column عندنا تحت الترايبود، تحت في الترايبود. This is question A. Question B, label the arrows on the condenser. Water in من تحت, water out من فوق. Okay. في الكوندنسر الواتر بتمشي من تحت لفوق to walk against gravity. Okay. بعد كده بيقول لي identify one mistake in the apparatus. This is the mistake. You cannot heat the distillate. الديستيليت الحاجة اللي بيحصل لها distillation وبتعمل لها collection. أو you cannot heat under the beaker because you will evaporate الديستيليت اللي أنت عايزه. Okay. So the mistake is heating under the beaker. Which liquid would collect first? If you remember في fractional distillation بيحصل evaporation للتو vapors بس only the vapor with the lower boiling point is allowed to pass first وبعد كده the higher and the higher ones. Okay. So مين اللي هيبقى collected first? I need to revisit the boiling points. مين اللي عنده the lower boiling point? Ethanol. So one mark that ethanol will be collected. The reason is because it has the lowest boiling point. Okay. طيب بعد كده بيقول لي why would it be better to use an electrical heater instead of a Bunsen burner to heat the water? When dealing with any flammable liquid, never heat directly. You will either use an electrical heater or you will use something called the water bath. Okay? The water bath ببساطة الفكرة that you heat water and this water boils into steam والsteam هو اللي بيعمل heating للflammable liquid. طيب why shall I use an electrical heater? Because ethanol is flammable. هو هنا عنده ethanol water. أكيد الwater مش flammable. So ethanol is flammable. That's the reason I never use a Bunsen burner. أو you can say يعني ethanol will catch fire. Okay. طيب question 2. Question 2 is a very important one ودايما بيجي سؤال التitration لازم تبقى بتقرا كويس to know all the details. He's saying a student investigated the reaction between aqueous sodium carbonate, which is a base, and two different solutions of hydrochloric acid A and B. Whenever he gets different solutions of the same acid, خلاص take care على طول إن the difference مش هيبقى في أي حاجة غير concentration. يعني why is he naming a solution A and the solution B as long as both are hydrochloric acid? The only reason هو إن the concentrations are not the same. And he gave you the reaction sodium carbonate and HCl بتديك sodium chloride, carbon dioxide and water. Then he's saying 3 experiments were carried out. Experiment 1, using a measuring cylinder. على طول لازم to recognize that this is a huge error. You never titrate using inaccurate apparatus. Titration كل الأباريتس اللي بستعملها لازم تبقى accurate. I use a pipette or a burette. I never use a measuring cylinder. So take note دايما لما تلاقيه مستخدم measuring cylinder because this can come in the questions. بعد كده he added 25 centimeter cube of sodium carbonate into a conical flask. It's very useful إنك ترسم لنفسك الexperiment. So get a conical flask, you add in a 25 centimeter cube of sodium carbonate. And then he's saying thymolphthalene indicator was added to the conical flask. We didn't take thymolphthalene indicator ولا colors بتاعته, and you don't need to know it. As long as he's using something that you didn't take in the syllabus, he will give you all the enough details, all the needed details in order to understand what you must do. So he's saying he used thymolphthalene indicator and he filled a burette to the 0.0 mark, which means إنه ملاها على آخرها لحد ما بقى فيها 50 centimeter cube with solution A of dilute hydrochloric acid. A was added to the flask until the solution just changed color. Use the burette to record the reading in the table. Okay. طبعا البيوريت reading هنا we always read the burette from the top to the bottom. فالبيوريت reading هنا is 13.2 decimeter cubed. Okay. وهنا في experiment 2 he repeated the same experiment but using another indicator which is methyl orange وده we know its colors red orange yellow في الacid red في الneutral orange وفي الalkaline yellow. Methyl orange is a red orange in acidic solution and yellow in alkaline solution. بعدين بيقول you use the burette to record the readings. Take care. Whenever taking burette readings, you read it from the top to the bottom and you read it to 1 decimal place. You must read any burette reading to 1 decimal place because it's the only apparatus اللي احنا أخدناه بياخد decimals. طيب هنا the final burette reading for experiment 1 was 13.2. The initial he said that he filled it to the 0.0 mark يبقى 0.0 with difference is 13.2. In the other experiment هنا the final reading was 39.2. The initial was 12.8 and the difference between them will be 26.4. Something very useful that you need to understand is that you must ركز معايا that you must recognize دايما هل في algebraic relationship ما بين ال differences دي ولا لا. يعني في mathematical relationship أقدر أجيبها ما بينهم. If you want to discover في relationship ولا لا دايما divide a larger number by the smaller one. If you divided this one by this one الريشيو هتطلع 2 which means إن هنا the experiment 2 volume needed was twice the volume needed for experiment 1. Okay? طيب. This keep it in mind يعني هتعرف ليه دلوقتي. خش على الأسئلة بقى. Okay? Here he's saying what color change was observed in the flask in experiment 2. لما يقول لك what color change you must take a look هو كان في إيه في الفلاسك. We started with sodium carbonate. We started with sodium carbonate which is a base. طب في experiment 2 كان حاطط methyl orange وهو قايل لك إنه methyl orange gives a yellow color in alkaline solution. يبقى in this solution اللون في الأول كان yellow. وبعدين he added the acid until neutralization took place. يعني ايه until neutralization؟ يعني until the color changed to A, to orange. يبقى the first question from yellow to orange. Okay? Experiment 3. He repeated experiment 1 using solution B of the acid instead of solution A. طب ايه الفرق بين السولوشنز؟ We agreed أكيد ال difference هيبقى في ال concentration since in both are hydrochloric acid. Okay? Use the burette diagrams to record the readings in the table and complete the table. The initial or final readings, we can take them easily, 16.5 and 9.9. 16.5 minus 9.9 means the difference is 6.6. Right. Question D. Suggest one observation other than the color change that's made when hydrochloric is added to sodium carbonate. We always say whenever you see carbonate, expect the production of carbon dioxide. ولما carbon dioxide بيطلع, you can say bubbles, you can say fizzing, or you can say effervescence of a colorless gas. طيب. E. Complete the sentence below. Experiment CAM needed the largest volume of hydrochloric acid to change its color. هنا الاكسبيرمنت دي احتاجت 6.6. الاكسبيرمنت نمبر 2 احتاجت 26.4. واكسبيرمنت نمبر 3 احتاجت كام؟ 13.2. يبقى أعلى واحدة is experiment 2. Okay? يبقى the highest volume was needed in experiment 2. Okay? طيب. What would be a more accurate method for measuring the volume of the aqueous sodium carbonate? That's the reason I told you دايما recognize the presence of the measuring cylinder at the beginning of the experiment. More accurate means more accurate than using a measuring cylinder, which will be using a burette or a pipette. Both are correct. Okay? طيب. What would be the effect on the results, if any, if the solutions of sodium carbonate were heated or were warmed before adding the HCl and give a reason? Take care, this is a very tricky question وبتقعوا فيه كتير. He's asking what would be the effect مش on the rate of the reaction. لأن أنت دايما مخك مربوط في increasing the temperature with the increase in rate. That's correct, but not in titration. Titration I'm not measuring the rate and I'm not adding الأسيد مع الألكلي كلهم مرة واحدة وسايبهم يعملوا reaction. I'm adding الأسيد to the alkali dropwise. فما ينفعش أقول له إن هيبقى في any effect on the results because I am not changing the concentration. إيه الحاجة الوحيدة اللي ممكن تأفكت the results هنا؟ إنك تغير في concentration of this acid. يعني you can change the results بإنك تغير concentration بتاعت الأسيد اللي في البيورات. Okay؟ لأن أنت you're measuring amount اللي أنت محتاجها منه. هل التمبريتشر هتأفكت أي حاجة؟ يعني if I heated the sodium carbonate هل الكمية اللي أنا محتاجها from the HCl will be lower؟ لا. اوكي، ده زي بتقول لي بالظبط ايه، انا هاكل اقل لو الاكل سخن. لا، الاكل سخن الاكل بارد انت هتاكل نفس الكميه. That's the same. الصوديوم كربونات هياخد من الاسيد the same amount whether the sodium carbonate is warm or it's cold. يبقى no effect because there is no change in concentration or because we're not measuring the rate of the reaction. This will have an effect بس مش على results بتاعتي. Determine the ratio of volumes ما بين experiment 1 and 3. The ratio of volumes of hydrochloric acid ما بين experiment 1 و 3. طب سؤال، experiment 1 احتاجت كام و experiment 3 احتاجت كام؟ 1 used 13.2 while 3 used 6.6. يعني أنا عندي two numbers دلوقتي 13.2 to 6.6. الريشيو ما بينهم كام؟ 2 to 1. Divide by the smaller number دايما you will get the ratio 2 to 1 not 1 to 2 عشان he's saying في experiments 1 and 3 ما قالش between experiments 3 and 1. Take care. طيب, use your answer to HI to deduce how the concentration of solution A differs from solution B. نبص على solution A وعلى solution B. دلوقتي في experiment 1 يا شباب he used مين؟ في experiment 1 he used ال HCl of concentration A. طيب ال HCl بتاع concentration A دوت احتجت منه how many centimeter cubes؟ I needed 13.2. يعني it neutralized الصوديوم كربونات ده using only كام؟ 13.2 centimeter cubes. طب معلش solution B اللي في الاكسبيرمنت دي solution B اللي في الاكسبيرمنت دي احتجت منه كام؟ 6.6. تخيل معايا المنظر كده. You have 25 centimeter cube of sodium carbonate. يمكن ده أكتر سؤال محتاج فهم في الامتحان. وعندك conical flask تانية فيها 25 centimeter cube also of sodium carbonate هو ماشي؟ طيب هنا حطيت acid HCl اسمه A وهنا حطيت acid HCl الكونسنتريشن بتاعته مختلفة اسمه B. You needed من A 13.2 centimeter عشان تعمل neutralization لل 25 دول. And you needed from B 6.6 centimeter عشان تعمل neutralization لنفس الاماونت. يبقى which is the stronger acid؟ مين اللي concentration بتاعته أعلى؟ B طبعا because I needed half the amount I needed from A. بيعمل نفس اللي A بيعمله with half the amount. So it means إن B concentration بتاعته was twice the concentration of A. Okay? So بيقول لك إيه؟ Use your answer to deduce how the concentration of A and B are different. B is double the concentration of A. I know إنه في كتير بيقولوا B is more than A, but please make it more accurate. خلاص؟ لأنه saying just that this one is more than this one is not enough, especially لو الإكزام طلع عليه السؤال ده 2 marks. Okay? طيب. I suggest a different method using standard laboratory chemicals to determine which of the solutions of dilute hydrochloric acid A or B is more concentrated. هو بيقول لي إيه؟ You must state a different method. Different عن مين؟ عن اللي السؤال ده بيتكلم عنها، عن التitration. To determine A ولا B is more concentrated. طيب. One of the important methods اللي تبقى في دماغك as a backup لو هو استخدم التitration وقال لك واحدة تانية use it is using a reaction with a visible observation. يعني ايه reaction with a visible observation؟ يعني أنا عايز أعمل reaction هتطلع لي observation I can see to compare the concentration بتاعة the two acids. فone of the best choices is adding magnesium carbonate or magnesium. ليه؟ If you get an acid وحطيت عليه metal plus acid لو you remember metal plus acid بيطلع لي salt plus hydrogen. So I can see a visible observation which is the volume of hydrogen gas اللي طالعة. أو you can say metal carbonate plus acid علشان هيطلع لك salt وcarbon dioxide وwater وcarbon dioxide also is a visible observation. Okay? As long as you're in paper 6 you must state volumes أو masses. Add 5 grams of magnesium or magnesium carbonate to 25 centimeter cube of each acid. Measure the volume of gas produced per minute. The concentration بتاعته أعلى, the more concentrated acid produces gas with higher rate. يعني with higher rate يعني will produce a larger volume. ممكن تقولها كده larger volume in the first minute. في أول دقيقة اللي concentration بتاعته أعلى الريت هيبقى أسرع فهيطلع لي volume أكتر في المينت الأولى. Okay. Question number 3. Two substances C and D were analyzed. Solid C was a salt and solid D and solution D was an aqueous solution of chromium chloride. Okay. C هو بيقول لي C ماليش اي information عنه. So I say to myself C كده ايه؟ ما اعرفش لا الكاتاين ولا الاناين. I don't know the positive or the negative ion. في D he told me both. He told me ان البوزيتيف كروميوم والنيجاتيف كلورايد. Okay? Let's start. بيقول لي test on C. He took C حطه في distilled water وبعد كده عمل shaking وبعدين اخذ السولوشن قسمه ل 2 portions. لون السولوشن كان colorless. Okay? والpH كان 7 which I knew from them ان انا عندي حاجه neutral. عندي neutral solution. اوكي؟ ممكن بقى مخي تروح لووتر، ممكن تروح لسولت، اكيد هو غالبا سولت لانه بيتكلم دايما على كاتاين واناين، بس لسه ما اعرفش ايه هو exactly. وبعد كده بيقول لي nitric acid, dilute nitric acid was added to the second portion of the solution followed by aqueous silver nitrate. خد بالك silver nitrate was the test for halides. مين الهالايد اللي عندي؟ اداني creamy PPT which indicates the presence of bromide. آخر حاجة a flame test was carried on solid C. Remember and revise the flame tests carefully. Sodium بيدي yellow, potassium بيدي lilac, lithium بيدي red, والمغنيسيوم بيدي white blinding flame. ده لقيت yellow flame which means إن أنا معايا sodium. طب sodium وبروميد يبقى I knew mean solid C is it's sodium A. It's sodium bromide. Describe the appearance of solution D. طيب solution دي ده كان مين؟ كروميوم كلورايد. since ان انا عارف انه كان كروميوم في كروميوم ايونز، خلاص ايه السولوشن، ايه الكالر اللي كان بيطلع لي مع الكروميوم؟ جراي جرين سولوشن. اوكي؟ بيدي طبعا المارك حتى لو قلت له جرين بس، يعني جراي is between brackets، بس the appearance of solution دي احسن answer is gray green solution. اوكي؟ طيب tests were carried out on solution D. Complete the observation for test 1, 2 and 3. Test 1, he added drops of sodium hydroxide into solution D وحط excess sodium hydroxide into the mixture. Observation. طب أنا معايا chromium ions من ال table of cations. chromium على sodium hydroxide هيديني gray green PPT which is soluble in excess. Gray green PPT أو that dissolves in excess أو soluble in excess. Okay, مع sodium hydroxide. طب he repeated the same test بس using aqueous ammonia solution. هيديني ايه؟ gray green PPT بس المرة دي insoluble in excess. ده just you're memorizing the table، يعني ده بيمتحن your memorization of the table only. Test number 3. Dilute nitric acid was added to solution D followed by silver nitrate. This is the test for the halides, chloride, bromide and iodide. طب أنا معايا مين؟ معايا chloride. The result is white precipitate. Finally بيقول لك ايه؟ chromium 3 can be converted to chromium VI. Chromium VI or 6 is hazardous. State one safety precaution when using chromium. Fume covered علشان ممكن يحصل inhalation لشوية منه. Wearing gloves, wearing goggles. He accepted many precautions. طبعا lab coat is a very يعني ridiculous one that he also accepted, but please don't use it regularly. أحسن واحدة كانت wearing gloves or using a fume covered. The final question. Okay, calcium burns in air to form calcium oxide. The reaction is vigorous and some of the calcium oxide can be lost as smoke. Plan an investigation to determine the maximum mass of oxygen that combines to form calcium oxide when 2 grams of calcium granules are burnt in air. ايه السؤال ده؟ بيقول لي أنا دلوقتي لو جبت عندي calcium and I burned this calcium in air, it will turn into calcium oxide. هو عنده 2 grams of calcium هيعمل لهم burning in air, and he wants to know what is the maximum mass of oxygen that combined to 2 grams of calcium. هنعمل ايه؟ Number 1, we will get the calcium granules and weigh them to make sure ان هما 2 grams. وبعد كده هحطهم في crucible. Okay, crucible اللي هي الحلة دي والليد بتاعها اهو. I will heat or burn the calcium in crucible with a lid او a cover. ليه؟ علشان خلي بالك هو قال لك it can be lost as smoke، فانت عايز تقفل علشان ما يبقاش في amount lost as smoke. وبعد كده you lift the lid periodically. بترفع الليد دوت كل شويه عشان تدخل air. اوكي بسرعه وبتقفله عشان يبقى فيه اكسجين كفايه انه يرياكت مع مين؟ مع الكالسيوم. بعد ما بتخلص الرياكشن بتاعتك بتسيب الكالسيوم to cool down. Never weigh anything while it's hot. اوكي الحاجات اللي hot بتبقى expanded شويه فسيبه يكول داون and reweigh. يعني انت كنت بادي ب 2 جرامز عملت بيرنينج المفروض انه بقى كالسيوم اوكسايد والماس بتاعه زاد. reweigh it again. وبعدين بص الستيب 7 دي دايما بتتنسي. heat again till constant mass. يعني ايه الستيب دي؟ لو انا عندي 2 جرامز اوف كالسيوم عملت لهم بيرنينج ولقوا كالسيوم اوكسايد جيت اوزنه لقيته 4 جرامز. اوكي تخيل ان انا رحت عامل burning شويه كمان وجيت وزنته لقيته 5 جرامز، ده معناه ان still the reaction isn't finished yet. امتى الرياكشن هتبقى finished؟ لما الاقي 5 جرامز 5 جرامز 5 جرامز، خلاص الماس ما بيزيدش، معناها ان كل الكالسيوم عمل رياكشن. The final step is هات الفاينل ماس minus الانيشال ماس، يبقى انت جبت الماس اوف اوكسجين جيند. الفاينل ويت اللي هو بتاع الكالسيوم اوكسايد minus الانيشال اللي هو 2 جرامز اوف كالسيوم، يبقى انت جبت الماس اوف oxygen gained. That was June 2016 variant 1 by Mr. Marco Medhat. Thank you.